Good day and welcome to SCO BRICS Insight, where we talk about what's really going on in the world of the BRICS. Now, my name is Rod Mackenzie, and today I would like to talk about a statement that Russia's oil reserves are expected to last for only a further 26 years. This is according to the latest assessment given by the head of the Ministry of Natural Resources of Russia, Alexander Kozlov. On initial observation, this figure seems to be quite frightening in nature. Will Russia really run out of oil by 2051? Will Russia really be forced to import fuel for its cars for the first time in its history? The Russian budget's finances are contingent on the stability of its oil exports, which are predicted to decline by almost a third, potentially resulting in a significant contraction in budget revenues. So, is the minister having a laugh, as we say in the West, or is it not quite clear the picture? Now, it's estimated that Russia's oil reserves and elsewhere will be exhausted or significantly reduced by this time. It's conceivable that Venezuela will still have sufficient reserves to last into the next century, given that with the country with the largest oil deposits is now producing a mere fraction of 1 million barrels per day. However, in Russia there's no cause for panic at this stage. The oil industry is unlikely to relinquish its dominance that easily. While the process will ultimately come to a conclusion, it will not be as rapidly as suggested by media reports. It's highly unlikely that the reason will be the depletion of oil reserves in the subsoil. Instead, it's more probable that new technology revolution will take place, and that will render transport by internal combustion engines cars less relevant and in demand. Now, this is where you talk about possibilities, that as a new type of transport is going to emerge, and it's anticipated that a significant proportion of the population will transition to this using the new form of transport. Now, it's not possible to predict what kind of cars they'll be. Are they going to be the new electric cars, but similar to the current models, but with significant improvements? They will be able to charge quickly, travel longer on a single charge, and cost no more than the traditional cars. That sounds pretty much like wishful thinking to me. Alternatively, it could be hydrogen or even nuclear-powered cars, another fanciful measure. Now, before I continue, I'd like to make an appeal. If you like and enjoy my videos, you can help me fund the channel and my website, SCOBRICSInsight.com, and you can do this by making a small donation, which is done by clicking on the thanks button at the bottom of the video screen. Every donation gets a personal thank you from me, and do set the alert button so you get notified when I post a new video, and also keep the comments coming, as I love to read them and I love to respond to them. Now, the outcome of the new technology will depend on the specific field in which the advancement occurs. Now, personally, I don't believe much of that. I'm reporting just what the so-called analysts are saying. Now, provided that the use of transport with internal combustion engines remains profitable on a global scale, which I think it will, now the demand for oil will continue to be met and extraction will remain a viable sector. Now, what do they mean by the figure of 26 years? Now, it's understood that this suggests that the country will actually run out of oil in a quarter of a century. But, did they actually provide more detail on this? Not really. You really have to note, firstly, that Russia's oil resources are significantly more abundant than the estimated reserves of 95 billion tons. Now, geological exploration has resulted in the transfer of 31 billion tons to the reserves balance, of which 13 billion have been recognised as profitable. Now, maintaining current production levels at an average of 500 million tons annually, this is estimated that these 13 billion tons that have been transferred will be utilised over the next 26 years. However, this calculation method doesn't take into account the overall volumes of oil in Russia's subsoil. Meanwhile, Russia's still not standing still. As with other countries, it invests annually in geological exploration of fields, thereby replenishing the country's oil reserves. Now, the exploration of parts of the subsoil is not currently feasible on economic or physical grounds at the moment. So, therefore, Russia's strategy is to explore enough to maintain a stable volume of profitable oil reserves for at least the next 2 decades. I mean, let's look back. In 2019, the level of profitable reserves in Russia was estimated at 20 years on. Now it's estimated at 26 years, so in 5 years it's gone up by 6 years. So that gives you an idea of what's going on. Now it's been determined that if geological exploration continues as it has, then the estimate of profitable reserves in Russia will remain at the same level as 26 years every single year going forward. And to achieve this, all they've got to do is replenish the balance of explored reserves by a minimum of 500 million tonnes, and that's not too particularly difficult. Now, what other way can Russia maintain its oil reserves continuing to produce more than 500 million tonnes of oil per year? So that even after the 26 years, it can be said that Russia has reserves for several more decades. Well, as I mentioned above, this is the study of the subsoil, conducting geological exploration and adding new deposits to the balance sheet. Now, Russia has significant potential. Now, you've got to understand that only 12% of eastern Siberia's oil reserves have been explored and just 5% of the Arctic's. Secondly, it's possible to continue extracting oil from depleted deposits, albeit in smaller volumes. And it's not within the interests of the major oil players to engage in this activity, as they have more significant projects in mind. However, this is where small private oil companies come in, and they could breathe new life into so-called depleted subsoil deposits. So it may be opportune for Russia to initiate the active development of small oil businesses in the sector. Now, these proposals are already being discussed at the level of the Russian government. So, plus furthermore, small private companies are permitted to dismantle explored small deposits that remain in the Rosneft reserve. These might not be ideal for larger companies, but small companies are well suited to doing this sort of stuff. I mean, at this stage of development, small oil companies can be very useful. I mean, let's look at the USA, for example. The shale revolution there was made possible at the beginning by the small private companies who took a punt. They were the ones. It was the smaller companies rather than the oil majors that expressed their interest in extracting and using technology for development of these small deposits. Hydraulic fracking, as we call it, or fracking, right? The United States' position as the world leading oil producers is now down significantly to the contribution of the small businesses in that oil industry. Now, there's also another potential avenue for increasing the volume of profitable oil reserves, which is to reduce the capital cost for field development. I mean, there's a significant of work to be done here from different sides. Firstly, the focus is on adjusting the tax burden for oil companies in a manner that's both financially viable for them to invest in complex fields, and that maintains the stability of the Russian budget. The two can be done. Now, thirdly, this work is on the emergence of new technological solutions, that know-how, that reduce the costs of developing hard to recover reserves, and that includes on the Arctic shelf. So a confluence of technological advances and elevated oil prices can rapidly transform complex projects into very lucrative endeavours. Consequently, Russia's profitable reserves are set to rise significantly, plus the durability of these is a key consideration. So, to paraphrase Mark Twain, reports of Russia's death as a major oil producer have been greatly exaggerated. Now, thank you for watching. Please like, share and subscribe. Do set the alert button to get informed when I post a new video. And if you want to help me out, click on the thanks button and make a donation. And I'll see you all again soon. Thank you.